Hello everybody, welcome back to our HTML and CSS tutorial. In the previous episode, we have write the HTML code of our portfolio, and this is what left us with all this bunch of code. And we have even tried running the output, which gives us this without any styling. This is just pure HTML code without any CSS. And this is just what we get from writing all the HTML code. And now, as we have said we are going to do in today's episode, we are only going to be styling this portfolio to make it looks just like this one right here. Just so you know, for those of you who haven't watched the previous episode, this is actually the second part of creating a portfolio using HTML and CSS, and we have already write the HTML code in the previous episode. So if you want to have the HTML code, you have to go back and watch the previous episode, write the code, and then move into this one. You can't just jump into this one without writing the HTML code. Just without wasting any time, since we're going to be writing a lot of CSS even in this episode, let's just move into our text editor and start writing the CSS part for our portfolio. Also, since the code we are going to be writing is a lot of CSS, we're also going to implement commenting method so that we can have a better understanding of wherever we are. So first of all, let's just start by creating a comment like this. You know, to create a CSS comment, you have to write it like this, and then your comment will come in between here. And let's just see, let's just call this one general styling, just like this. And let's come down and write the star symbol. Just so you know, the star symbol means we're styling everything in our code. It will be targeting all the tags, everything. This star symbol means all. We're targeting all. And we're just going to remove the margin, and let's also remove the padding, and let's come down and make sure that we make it a border box. Let's see, box sizing, let's create a border box for it. Let's just leave it border box like this. And let's also change the font family. For the font family, I think let's just go with let's try something new. Let's go with Poppins like this. Poppins like this, or let's see, sans serif. The browser is not supporting Poppins, let it run on sans serif like this. Or maybe I think this P is supposed to be a capital P. It doesn't matter, you can just leave it Poppins with a small p or with a capital P. It is not going to change anything. I just prefer to have it this way. It is more right like this. And let's come down and start styling the body like this, targeting the body tag. What we're going to do is this. Let's start it by changing the background of our body. Background. Let's use this color F3, F4, F9, just like this. It's not a white color, as you can see. It's a little dark color, but you can really tell without looking at it. So let's change the text color of our body to something like this. Hashtag 333, just like this. And let's also come down right here. Let's come down right here and give it a line height between our text. The line height of our text should be 1.6. That's just what we're going to do. And what we're going to do, let's also create an overflow for it on the x-axis. Let's hide the overflow on the x-axis, and let's just scroll down a little bit, and let's come down right here, and let's set the main styling of our code. Let me just copy this comment right here with Ctrl+C, and let me just come down a little bit, and instead of general styling, let's just say we are going to be styling our hero section right here. Hero section like this. And this hero section is actually where we have that large carousel. This one right here, this image that is right here, is actually what I call the hero section. Just so you know where we are at the time we are. And if you just check in your HTML, you find the class hero section right here. I think we have it here, hero section. So we're actually styling this header right now, this hero section. That's what we're actually styling right now. And let's just come down right here and call the class hero like this. And the first thing we're going to style in our hero section is the background like this. And what we're actually going to do is this: we're going to add a linear gradient color at the back. Then we're just going to place our image there so that we can just have a level of transparency, so that our image is not going to be vividly clear, just like this. If you will realize right here, the image is actually having something above it, like a dark layer above it. It is not actually just the image. You know what, let me show you the actual image I use right here, so just you understand what I mean with that. Let me go into my image folder. As you can see, this is image 1. This is the actual image I use for our hero section. As you can see, the image is light. It has more clarity right here than it is right here. So actually what we are going to do is that this have a layer of dark color covering it with just a transition in a way that you can see through it. That's just what we're going to do. So that's what I'm also going to do right now in our code. Let me close this one. And what I'm just going to do is that I'm just going to copy the color and the image name and everything. That I'm just explaining everything to you. What I did is that we are going to be using a linear gradient color. So let me just copy everything and let me paste it right here. What we actually did, let me just close this one so that we can have a clear view of our code. What we actually did is that we have a linear gradient color. It's an RGBA color. Just so you know, an RGB color is a color that doesn't have any transparency. An RGBA color is a color that has a level of transparency, just like this. If I'm to slide in this one to upward, as you can see, the color code name has changed to just an RGB color. But from the moment I started using a transparency level, the A will appear RGBA, just like that. So we're just going to be using a 0.6 level of transparency. So let's make it a 6, like this. We have a black color and a black color linear gradient. And then we have added a background image. In CSS, this is how you add a background image. You just write in the URL, then the path of your image and the name of your image. That's just it, just like this. This is how you add an image as a background image in CSS. And then the next thing we're going to do is that let's scale our image. How much do you want it to cover? For the height, what you're going to do is that let's just make it 100 view height, like this. And let's come down for the color. And for the color, what you're going to do is that the color that will appear in our hero section, let's make it a white color. So let me just type in the white. You know, you can just do it like this, or you can just type in hashtag FFF white color. You can do it anyhow you like. If you prefer using the color code, then just type in white like this. Or if you prefer using the text, you can just type in white like this. And let's just go for the display. The display, what we're going to do for the display, let's make it a flex display. And let's come down right here and let's see align items. What we're going to do is that let's also make it center like this. And let's also justify the content so that it will be also at the center. Justify content. Let's also make them center just like this. And our text align. Text align. Let's also make it center like this. And then our padding, what we're going to do is this. For the padding, let's just make it 2REM, just like this. 2REM. And now I think we're done with this hero class. Let's come down and style the hero title just like this. Class hero dash title, and I want to call it bracket just like this. And what we're going to do is that let's start by targeting it font size. And for the font size, see, we're targeting that big caption that say hi, I am your name. What we're going to do is that let's give it 3.5 REM like this, so that it just be a very big text. And let's also give it a text shadow. So let's just say text dash shadow. Sorry, I had a typo. Text dash shadow like this. And what we're going to do is that for the text shadow, let's give it a 2 pixel, and then maybe something like 8 pixel like this. And then let's give it an RGBA color since it's shadow. And instead of 0.6 right here, let's just make it a 0.7 RGBA. And let's come down and create an animation for it. Just so you know, that text that animate like this, let me show you. As you can see, if we were to refresh right here, this text is animating downwards to this stage. So that's what just we're going to be creating right now. And let's see animation like this. Let's start with the fade in. Fade in. You have to be very careful with this. The keyword is actually fade in. The I is capitalized. Fade in with an capital I. All the FADE are small letters. The I is capital while the N is small letter. Fade in 2 seconds is, you can just leave it is, or you can just go in with is in and out, just like that. It will work in perfectly. And for the time frame, for the keyframe, for the keyframe of our animation, we're just going to be creating it afterwards. We're just going to maybe put them at the bottom of our styling. But for now, we have initiated the animation feature, even though we cannot have that animation right now because we don't have any keyframe for the animation. We're just going to be creating the keyframe. Don't worry, if we reach there, I'll explain everything to you so that you just have a better understanding of what we did. But right now, let's just come down and continue styling our hero title. Now let's just highlight that text that is different. This one, this is what I mean. Let me show you this text that is different. As you can see, the hi I am is white, while this one your name is yellow. So you're just going to style this yellow text right now. That's just what we're going to do. So let me just go back inside our code, and as you all know, we will target it with our highlight class. So before that, let's just see hero title, and inside our hero title we have a class called highlight, just like this. And curly bracket, come down right here. What we're going to do is that let's change the color and make it to that yellow color. So let me just copy the color code just so that we can have a little bit more speed in our code. Let's paste it right here, and let's come down right here. And what we're going to do is that let's transform the text to an uppercase. Let's just say text transform. Let's just make them uppercase, just like this. And let's also come down and give it some font weight. So for the font weight, what we're going to do is that let's just give it something like, let's just say maybe 800. Let's just leave it 800 like this. And let's scroll down a little bit. And what we're going to style next, I think, is the class hero subtitle. Let's just see hero dash subtitle. I hope this is how you spell subtitle, just like this. And what we are going to do for this one is this. Let's just change the font size so that it will not be as big as our hero highlight title. So what we're going to do is this for the subtitle. For the font size, what we're going to give it is something like 1.5 rem, like this. And let's come down right here and give it a margin top so that it will have a little space between it and our hero caption. So let's just see the margin top of this one. It should be something like maybe just 10 pixels. It's okay. And let's come down right here and give it a color so that it will just have a different color also. So for the color, let's give it the same as our hero title color. This one, this yellow color. And now let's just come down and create the styling for our social media icons. So let's target them with the class social dash icons with an S. Just so you know, we have created two classes for this one. Let me show you what I mean. Right here, as you can see, we have a class, a div that has a class social icons with an S, and then we give this social media icon class inside our anchor tags. All the links have a social media icon without an S, while the div on itself that stores all the links have an S on its name, social media, social icons, while this one is social icon. So that is just what I'm going to do. The first one, now we are selling the div tag. So the social icons div. So what we're just going to do is that let's just give it a margin top. I think that's the only thing we're going to be giving it. So the margin top is supposed to be 1.5 rem so that it will not be too much. And I think this is just what we're going to do. Let's just sell everything inside our social icon class. social dash icon without an s, curly bracket, just like this. You have to understand this: social icons with an s, while this one is social icon without an s. Because if you make a mistake right here, you're just going to be having error when you run the styling. Social icon, let's see, color, let's just give it a white color. You can just type in hashtag FFF like this if you want. It's a color code and it will work just fine, but I think just for this episode I'm just going to be using white like this. It will also work just fine if you want. And let's also give it a margin, margin like this. And the margin we're going to be giving this one is going to be 0 top and bottom. And then since we've already give it a margin top right here, if we give it another margin top, it's going to be too much. So for the top and bottom, I'm just going to leave it 0. And for the left and right, maybe we should just give it something like time pixel like this. And let's come down and give it a font size. And for the font size, it's not going to be much. So let's just see, the size of our icons should be 2 rem, just like this. And let's come down right here and give them some transition feature. Let's just say transition. What we're going to do is that we're going to target the transform of their transition. When they're transitioning, we're only targeting them when they are transforming, and they will be transforming in the speed of 0.3 second is. And then let's put a comma like this. We're also going to target the color transition, so when it is also going to be changing its color, it's going to be at the speed rate of 0.3 second is, just like this. And just so you know, you have to separate the two. The transform is with the color is by a comma, just like this. You have to put this comma so that you don't have an error. And I think we're almost done with the hero styling. The only thing that remains, I think, is the hover for this ones, this transition we have created right now. Let's give it a hover right here. What we're going to do is that let's target the class social icon, this one. Let me just copy everything right here with Ctrl+C, and let's paste it right here. And then we're going to remove everything that is here. Let's also add the hover like this. We're targeting the social icon hover without an S. So right here, what we're going to do is that since we're also changing the transform scale, let's see, transformation, let's target its scale. The scale should be, it's not going to be that much, because if we go too high, it will show too obvious. So what we're going to do is that initially it was 1, so we're just going to make it maybe 1.2. maybe you can put 1.3 if you want, but it shouldn't be more than 1.3. It can be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, but 1.2 is like the average size. It's more reasonable having it 1.2, just like that, so that the scale transformation, it won't be so too big, just like that. And for the color, what I'm just going to do is that let's just give it this yellow color. We already have it right here. And now I think we are done with the hero section styling. So let's just save it and go inside our browser and see what we have. As you can see, this is our code. Now if we were to refresh, this is what we have. We have started applying the styling for this one. But if we were to refresh, it doesn't have that animation feature right here, just like we have it right here on this one. If we were to refresh this, hi, I'm your name, is going to animate in this approach. For this one, it doesn't have it because we did not create the keyframes for our animation. And don't worry, we are going to do that later on. And for this one, I think they're just having their hover effect just fine, just like that. And I think that's all. So let's go back and style our navigation bar right now, because it is the next in line. Let me go back inside our text editor, and maybe I should just copy in my comment right here. Ctrl+C, and let's come right here and paste it right here. And what we're actually going to style here is the nav bar like this. And since we're going to be styling the nav bar, we have already created a class nav bar like this. Sorry, nav bar like this. And for this class, what we're going to do is this. We're going to start styling the background of our nav bar. Let's give it a background, and what we're actually going to do is that we're going to be giving this navbar a transparent background. So what we're actually going to do is that let's use an RGBA color code, and let's make it like this, a black but with a transparency level of 0.8, just like this. And the reason why we're giving it this is that the navbar is going to be a sticky navbar, so it's going to be hovering over a lot of things, just like this. Let me show you what I mean. As you can see, our navbar is right here, and it's a sticky navbar, since even if we scroll over it, it's going to stay there. And we're just going to giving it that transparency, so that when it is hovering around here, as you can see, we can even read through it. We can read this about me through it, and even if it's covering here, we can just see what is beneath it, so that it will not just be covering everything. Because if you're not going to be giving it that transparency feature, it's just going to be covering everything. We're not going to be able to see what it is covering, just like that. And I think it's a very cool feature having it that way. That's why we're just going to be doing it that way. So now we're just going to be giving it a 0.8 level of transparency, just like that. And for the color of the text, what we're actually going to do is let me just leave it white like this, since it's a black background. And let's also give it a padding, and the padding is actually going to be 1 rem on the top and bottom, and then 0 on the left and right. And let's make it a sticky. So for the position, let's select a sticky position. That is what is going to make it sticky, just like that. And for a top, let's remove any space at the top with 0, and let's also give it a z index in such a way that nothing is going to be above it. So let's give it a high z index, just like this. And the z index I'm just going to be giving it is supposed to be something very high, like maybe 1000. That is what will allow it to be on top of everything, even if we are scrolling, since it's a sticky one. And let's also give it a box shadow right here. And for the box shadow, what we're going to do is that let's start it with the scale of it 0.4 pixel, 6 pixel, just like this. And then let's make it an RGBA color, since it's a transition. And since it's shadow, and the shadow is supposed to be, instead of 0.6, it's going to be too much. Let's just leave it 0.3 RGBA transition level, just like this. And I think we're also done with this one. So let's just tell the content inside our navbar. Let's say class navbar. We're targeting the UL inside it, curly brackets, just like this. And let's start with removing the list style to none, just like this. And then let's come down and target the display. The display should be flex, since we just want them to be very flexible, and they will be able to follow the flow of what we want. And let's centralize the content. So let's just say justify content, let's make them center, and then let's just give them a gap between them. So for the gap, what we're actually going to do is that the gap should just be 1.5 rem, just like this. And I think we are done with this one. So actually the next thing we're going to be styling, let's just say class navbar. Let's style the links inside anchor tags. So let's start by removing the text decoration. The text decoration, let's remove it to none, like this. And for the color, let's make it a white color, just like this. And what actually we're going to do next is maybe something like the font weight of it. Let's just give some font weight. And for the font weight, what we're actually going to do, let's just give it a 600 font weight, just like this. And I think it's okay. So let's also give it a transition, since there are links actually. So for the transition, what we're actually going to do is that let's just target the color transition. The color transition should be 0.3 second, is just like that. And I think we're done with this one. So let's just style the hover. And what you're actually going to do, since we're only going to style the hover of this one, let's copy everything right here. I just want to speed it, and let me paste it right here like this. Let me target the hover like this, and let me just delete everything that is right here, and let me just target the color, since that is the only thing I'm going to be targeting in the hover. So the color, let's just make it this yellow. On hover, it's just going to be this yellow color. And now we are done with the Navbar styling. So let's just save it with Ctrl S and go back inside our browser and see what we have. So if I to refresh it, let's just wait for it to load a little. And now, as you can see, we have our navbar styled perfectly. Now we have this one styled. The hero section is the first section. It is styled okay. And the next one is the navbar, and it's also styled okay. As you can see, we're just following everything step by step. I hope you're also getting everything that I'm having right now. If you're getting it, then let's continue. If you're not, then you have to go back and check where you made a mistake. I hope you're not making a mistake, because actually what you're doing today is a little bit confusing. Since the code is too much, it can confuse others. So now let me just go in right here and copy my comment, come down right here and paste it. Instead of navbar, we're actually going for the section styling. We're just going to style the section styling like this, and let's just tag it in the class section directly. Let's just say section like this. Class section, we're targeting all the class section we've created, and let's start by giving them a padding like this. And for the padding one, we're actually going to give them a 4 rem. It's a large padding on the top and bottom, so that they'll just be having these spaces between them, enough space. 4 rem is a large space, so for the left and right, it's just going to be 0, just like that. And I think we are done with this section, only this section part. So actually what we're going to do is that let's style the section dash title. We're just setting the section title classes we have created. First of all, let's just see, we're just going to be giving them a font size of let's just say a font size of 2.5 rem, just like this. And let's come down and give them a text align of center, sorry, text dash align. Let's make them center, just like this. And let's come down right here and give them a margin bottom. And for the margin bottom, what we're actually going to do is that let's give them a 2 rem margin bottom, and let's also give them some color like this. And for the color, we're just going to be giving them a green color. So let me just copy in the color code right here with Control C, and let me just paste it right here with Control V, just like this. This is the color we're just going to be giving them. And what we're actually going to do is this. Let's also give them a position, sorry, position like this. And let's just make it a relative position. Don't worry, it's just working perfectly with a relative position. And let's just scroll down a little bit and come right here. And what we're actually going to do is this. We're going to be giving them an after styling. It's just like the hover feature. So let me just type in, then maybe you will understand what I mean. Let's just see section title class, and then we're just going to target the after like this. And the after is just actually going, and I'll show you what the after actually is, but maybe let me just show it to you before we read it. As you can see right here, it is having this small line at the bottom of it like this, and this one is also having this small line. That is just the after feature we're just going to be adding for it right now. So let's go scroll back and set this one, and let's just see for the after what we're actually going to do. Let's just first targeting the content and a little bit placeholder like this, and then let's come down and change the display. For the display, we're actually going to give it a block display to just be right beneath it. And the next thing, we're just going to give it a width. Our after width is just be maybe 50 pixel. You can add it, but don't give it too much. You just have to see the amount of text you have, then you just give it, I think 50 is okay, because we just need it to be something like a little small cool feature there. Just leave it 50, don't change it, leave it 50. I think it will be okay. But if you think you can add more and you think it's okay, you can just give it more than 50. But for the height, it's supposed to be 4 or less than 4, not more than 5. Let's just go with height of let's just say 4 pixel, because we don't want it to be very thick. Just so you know, what the height is actually going to do is this. As you can see right here, we have this small line right here. It's having a width of 50 pixels from right here to this place is 50 pixel, and for the height, which is 4 pixel, is the distance of it horizontally. I'm supposed to say, oh, vertically. Yes, vertically, as the distance is going to be having vertically, so just like that. And now let's come down and give it a background. And for the background, actually what you're going to do is that let's just give it this yellow color, this one right here. And let's just come down and give it some margin. And for the margin, actually what we're going to do is that let's just give it a 10 pixel top and bottom. Let's just say top. Let's just leave it top, just like that. And for the left and right, so that it just be justified, let's make it auto. And for the bottom, let's remove it and make it 0, just like that. I think it will be okay like this. And now let's come down and give it a border radius, just like this. And for the border radius, we're actually going to be giving it 20 pixel border radius, so you just be having a very curved edge. And I think we're also done with the section styling. It's not actually going to change a lot. Even if you were to save it and go back inside our browser and refresh, it's only going to target the section styling. But let me refresh it and show you what it actually does. As you can see, it is not changing much. You're not actually even seeing the differences, but we have this scales, so we have made a typo. We just add in cells instead of scales. So we're going to go back inside our HTML and correct it. I just hope you write your scales correctly, unlike me. Contact me is correct. So right now, actually what I'm going to do is this. I have to go back inside of my HTML and correct this typo that I make. Instead of cells, I have to make it cells. So now let's go back inside our text editor, inside our HTML, and let's scroll down to scale section. So right here, we actually type in cells instead of scales. So let's add in the key scales. And now it's already. Save it with Control S. I hope you did not make this type of mistake that I make. And now we are also done with the section styling. So let's move into our about styling. But first, I have to copy in this comment with Control C. Sorry, let me copy it correctly. Copy it with Control C. And let me just come down right here and paste it. And instead of having it section styling, let's just say about section. Let's say about section like this. And let me come down. And what we're actually going to do is that we have a class called about dash section like this, curly bracket, and we're just going to come down and create a background for this one. And for the background, we are just going to use a linear gradient color. And let me just copy in the color code so that we're not going to waste any time. And actually, we're just going to make to bottom, just like this. To bottom, this is the color it's going to have for the about section styling, just like this. And let's give it a padding. And for the padding, we're just going to make it 4 rem top and bottom, and then 2 rem left and right. And then let's also give it a border radius. Let's say a border radius, just like this. And for the border radius, we're actually going to be giving it a 15 pixel like this, so that the curve will just be enough for our box. And let's also give it a box shadow. So let's just see, sorry, box shadow, this one. And for the box shadow, let me just copy in the color code and the angles that we want it to be. Let me just paste it right here, 0, 8 pixel, 15 pixel, and then it's an RGB color with a 0.1, transparency 11. And let me just come in and give it a margin. And for the margin, actually, you're just going to be giving it a 3 rem like this, auto, just like this, 3 rem auto. And I think we are done with the about section class styling. So now let's style the about container. We have a class called about dash container. I think container is spelled like this and the other way around. Let's just say container like this. And let's see the display. Sorry, display like this. The display is actually going to be flex like this. And let's come down and give it an align items feature. Align items, let's just say center like this. And let's come down and justify our content. Justify content. It should be just, let's just say maybe like space between this one. Instead of center, let's just leave space between, because we want it to be balanced. Like the space between the boxes should just be balanced, just like that. And actually what we're just going to do is that let's give it a gap. The gap we're actually going to give it is just going to be 2 rem, just like this. And let's come down and give it a flex wrap. A flex wrap like this. And for the flex wrap, we're just going to make it wrap, just like this. So that we're not just going to be having an overflow of content. It is just going to be, if it reaches the end, instead of it to just continue going and hide, it will just come down, just like that. And let's just scroll down a little bit. We're also done with the about container styling. Now let's style the about photo, that profile picture we are going to be adding, or we have added, sorry. So let's just see about dash photo. That's the name of the class I've created. Curly bracket. Let's just start by giving it a width. And for the width, we're actually going to be giving it a 300 pixel width. And then let's come down and give it a height of also 300 pixels, so that it will just be a square. Let's just see height of 300 pixels, because we have to make it a square before we have the perfect round we want for it, like this one. Let me show you what I mean. It has to be a square before we have this perfect round shape we are having right here. Don't worry, I'll show you what I mean actually when we finish. Maybe I'll just mess with the width and height so that we just see what I mean with that. And now let's just come down right here and give it a border radius. Now this is where we make it a perfect square, oh sorry, a perfect circle, like this, border radius. And actually what you're going to do is that since it is square, if you give it a 50% border radius, it's just going to make it a cycle. Because actually what you're going to do is this. Let me just save, or what we did, just leave it like this, don't put the border radius. Let me just save it with Control S. And let's go back inside our browser. If we are to refresh, as you can see, we have this in a square pattern, just like this. This is a square circle. So actually if I were to give it half of this one is 50%, and half of this one, the other half is also 50%. And just so you have it this way, this one also is 50%, this one is also 50%. So if we are to give it a 50% border radius, the curve is going to be perfectly cycle on this side, so as the other side. If we have half of a cycle and another half of a cycle, is going to make it a perfect cycle. So that's just what we're going to do right now. If we are to go back and give it a border radius of 50% like this and save it, if we are to go back inside our browser now and refresh, as you can see, it is a perfect cycle. That's just what I mean. So let me just go and make our image flex in such a way that it's not just be showing in this approach. We have to give it an object fit so that it will not just be squeezing in that approach, because as you can see now, this, since we have already changed the scale of our image, the image is looking somehow not quite all right. Let me just show you what I mean. Let's just add this feature right here. We're just going to say object fit, just like this, and let's make it a cover like this. Object fit, let's make it cover. And now if you're just to add this feature object fit and refresh, let me just refresh, as you can see, the image is just released, it's balanced, just like that. So that's why we add this one. Let's just go and finish in the styling of this one. We're spending a lot of time explaining things, even though I know the explanation is something a lot of people want me to do. And now let's just give it a box shadow. And for the box shadow, we're actually going to be, let me just copy in the color code and the angles with Control C, and let me just paste it right here with Control V. It has a 0, 10 pixel, 20 pixel, and RGBA color of with 0.2 transparency level. And we're just going to give it a border like this. Let's just see a border. And for the border, we're actually going to be giving it a 5 pixel solid like this. And the color of our border, let me just copy in the color just so you see it. Control C, and let's paste it right here with Control V. As you can see, it's a green. So now I think the only thing that remains for this one, I think, is the transition. Actually, for the transition, what we are going to do is this. Let's target the transform. I hope this is how we spell transform. 0.3 second is, and then we're also going to target the box shadow, box dash shadow like this. Box shadow, let's give it a 0.3 second is transform. transparency as well. Transition, we're targeting the transform 0.3 second. Is box shadow, we're also targeting it with 0.3 second. Is just like this. And right now I think we're also done with the styling of this one. So let's just go down here and give it a hover. Let's just say about photo class, about photo, we're targeting is hover like this. And for the hover, we're just going to say transform, since we actually targeted transform. So for the transform, is going to be on the scale of let's just say the scale of 1.1, because actually what we're going to do, what we're doing right here is this transform is actually transforming the size of our image. Let's assume we are to save it now and go back inside our browser. As you can see, the image is like this. Let's refresh first. As you can see, the image is like this. This is the one scale of it. If we were to hover, since we have added that feature of scale to 1.1, is increasing the size to 1.1. If the higher we increase the scale, the higher the image is going to be bigger. That is just what we are going to do. That's just what we are doing with that transform scale. So let's go back and continue writing our code. Actually, let's just come right here and target the box shadow, since we have also added a feature of box shadow in the transition. Let's see, we're targeting the box shadow, and for the box shadow we are just going to give it, let me just copy in the color code and the angles we want for it. Let's see, Ctrl C, and let me just paste it right here. It's Ctrl V, just like this. And I think we are done with the over styling. Let me just scroll down a little bit and come down right here. And what we're actually going to do is that we're just going to style the about text container class we have created, like this: about dash text dash container, like this, about text container class, like this one. And what we're going to do is that we're just going to give it a maximum width. Let's just say max width of something like maybe 500. No, let's just give it a 600 pixels. So it'll just be big enough, just like that, 600 pixel. And I think that's just all we are going to give in this about text container. And inside our about text container, we have about title. So let's just say class about dash title, like this, curly bracket. And inside this one, we're just going to say font dash size, like this, font size. And for the font size, we're just going to make it 2 rem, like this. And let's come down and target the color. And for the color of this one, what we're actually going to do is that let's just give it this green color, this one right here. And let's just come down and give it a font weight, so that will just be different font weight. And for the font weight, let's just make it bold, like this. And let's come down again and give it a margin bottom, so that it will just have a margin at the bottom of it. Margin bottom, it should just be 1 rem, just like this. And let's also come down here and give it a text dash shadow, like this. For the text shadow, what we're actually going to do, let me just copy in the color code and the angles, so that we will just speed it a little bit. Let me just paste it right here. 1 pixel, 1 pixel per pixel. An RGBA color, black color with a 0.1 transparency level. So let's just give it a position. Position, it should be a relative position, this one. And I think we are also done with about title styling. Let's just give it an after styling. Let's just say about dash title after. And for the after, we're just going to give it like this. Let's just say content. Let's leave it a placeholder. Sorry, like this. Let's come down the display. And for the display, we're actually going to make it a block display, just like this. And let's give it a width. For the width, we're actually going to give it a 50 pixel width, just like this. And let's come down and give it a height. a height of 3 pixel like this. And let's give it a background as well. And for the background, we're actually going to give it this color. Let's see this one, this yellow color. So let's just come down right here and give it a margin. And for the margin, we're just going to give it 10 pixel, 0, and then 15 pixel at the bottom. And let's come down right here and give it a border radius. And for the border radius, we're actually going to give it a very, very little one. So let's just say 2 pixels. That's okay, since it's just a short line we're creating right there. And let's come down right here. Let me just scroll down a little bit so that we have a better visibility of what I'm doing. We're just going to target the about text. Let's just say class about dash text, curly bracket. I think I spelled about correctly. It's about text. What you're just going to do is let's start with styling the font size. Let's give it a 1.2 rem like this. And let's come down. Color should be something like this. 555 is a dark color like this. And let's also give it a line height. And for the line height, we're actually going to make it 1.8, just like that. And let's come down and give it a text align. And for the text align, I think let's just make it justify. I think it should just be okay, justify. And for the position, let's make it relative. Let's also give it a padding. The padding we're actually going to give it is supposed to be 1 rem, like this, so that it knows it's going to be too much. And let's also give it a background. And for the background, let me just copy in the color code. Control C, and it's an RGBA color with a 0.9 transparency level. As you can see, it's a white color, 0.9 transparency level. That's just what we did right there. And let's just come down and give it a border radius. The box is supposed to have a border radius of something like, let's just give it 10 pixels, since we don't want it to be a circle or too much curve at the end. Let's just see box the shadow like this. Shadow, for the box shadow, let me just copy in the color of our box shadow and the angles, so you just see it. It's a 0 pixel at the top, left and right at pixel, 15 pixel at the bottom, RGB color, black color with a 0.1 transparency level. That's just what we did. And let's also give it a transition. And for the transition, we're actually going to target the box dash shadow. We're just going to target the box shadow. Let's give it a 0.3 second is transition, just like that. Since we have a transition, we are supposed to have a hover. But for now, I think we are done also with this one. Let's just come down right here. There's a C class about dash text. Let's target its hover. At this hover, let's come down and say box dash shadow, box shadow, since it is the transition we have. And for the box shadow, let me just copy in the color code and its angle so that we will just speed it a little. 0 at the top, 12 pixel at the left or right, 20 pixel at the bottom. Is a black color with 0.15 transparency level, a little bit slightly better than this one. It's just that we have changed the angles from 0. This one is still 0, 0, 0 pixel, 12 pixel, 15 pixel, 20 pixel. This one is a black color with a slightly more visibility of 0.05 increase to it, just like that. And now we're actually going to style our class gradient text, and we're actually going to be using a WebKit to push in those features inside gradient dash text like this, getting its background like this. And for the background, we're just going to give it a linear gradient color. Let me just copy in the color code and angle. Let's say Control C, and let me just paste it right here with Control V 90 degree. this red and this one, just like this. And let's use a WebKit to push it inside. Let's say WebKit background clip. This one, we're targeting this one, WebKit background clip. We're targeting the text. Let me come down right here and also target WebKit dash text. Fill color, we're targeting this one. And for the fill color, let's just say, let's make it transparent like this. And let's come down and give it a font dash weight, font weight of bold, like this. And I think we are done with the about section styling. So I think we're done with it. Let me just copy in my comment. We are moving into our skills section, but first let's just save it and go back inside our browser and refresh to see what we have for our about. As you can see, this is what we have for our about section. If we were to hover, this one is working just fine. And about me, as you can see, hello. So now we have finished the hero section styling, the navigation bar styling, and it's a sticky navigation bar, as you can see, and the about me styling. We're also with the about section. The next section we're going to be styling is the skills section right here. So let's just go back inside our text editor and continue writing the code. So let's just come down right here and paste in our comment inside the about section. Let's just say skills section like this. And let's come down for our skill section. We're just going to start targeting the class skill dash grid, just like this. Skill grid like this, and let's come down, give it a display. For the display, we're actually going to be giving it a grid display like this, and let's come down and create the grid template column. Let's initiate the grid template column. And let's say, let's make it in a repeat order, and let's make it auto dash fit, auto fit, comma, let's give it a min max of 250 pixel, comma, it should be in one frame order, just like this. And I think we only need to give it a gap, and for the gap it's just going to be a 1.5 rem, just like that. And we're done with this one. So let's just come down and style our skill card class, skill dash card, skill card like this. And for the skill card, we're actually going to do it this way. Skill card, let's just say background. And for the background, we're just going to say it should be a white background. Let's just say hashtag FFF like this. And let's come down right here and give it a border radius like this, a border radius of 15 pixel like this. And let's come down and give it a box shadow. Let's just say box shadow, and for the box shadow, let me just copy in the color code and its angle so that we'll just make it a little bit faster. Let me paste it right here. 0, 8 pixel, 15 pixel RGBA, black color with a 0.1 transparency level. And let's just give it a padding of, let's just say 2 rem like this. And let's come down and give it a text align. And actually for the text align, what we're going to do is that let's just make it center like this. And let's also give it a transition. And for the transition, we're actually going to target the transform. The transform transition 0.3 second is comma, and then we'll also target in the box dash shadow, box shadow like this, and it should be also 0.3 second is, just like this. And I think we're also done with the skill card class. So now let's just come down right here and target the skill card hover. Let's say skill dash card, we're targeting its hover like this. And for the hover, what we're actually going to do is that let's target the transform. Since there are the two things we give transition to. Let's see the scale. We're targeting the scale. It should be a scale of 1.05. We don't want it to change too much, so let's just leave it 1.05 like this. And for the box shadow, we want the box to have a little bit more shadow when it is transforming. So let's just say box shadow of something like 0. So let me just copy in the color code and the angle and everything so that we will speed. Control C, and let's paste it right here with Control V, just like this. 0, 12 pixel, 20 pixel RGBA color, black color with a 0.15 transparency level. So actually, let's just come down right here and target the scale dash card, and then let's style the icons inside it with an eye like this, curly bracket. Actually, we're just going to change in their size. As you know, the icons are like text, so if you target the font size, you're targeting them directly. 3 rem like this. And let's also target the color. For the color, we're just going to give it something like this. Let me just copy in the color code so that it will just be a little bit faster than me writing it manually, just like this. It's just green color. And let's give it a margin bottom. And for the margin bottom, so that we have a space between it and the text, it should just be 1 rem. They're in the same container, it shouldn't be that much. So let's just scroll down a little bit like this, and let's come down and target the h3 inside our scale card like this. Scale dash card, we are targeting the h3 like this, the h3 inside our scale card. So let's just change the font size like this. The font size should just be 1.5 rem like this, 1.5 rem. Let's just come down a little, and let's just also give it a margin bottom like this. And for the margin bottom, it's just be 0.5 rem like this. I think it's okay. Let's change its color to #333, a little bit dark color. And I think we're also done with the scale section styling. So let me just save it with Control S. And if we are to refresh and scroll down, oops, as you can see, we have a little arrow. So actually now let's go back inside our CSS and correct it. Maybe we missed a class name or something. Let's just go back and check. What did we miss? Right here, I think we have almost everything supposed to be under this scales card. We're actually missing an S, because I think right here inside our scale section, we actually call this class scales grid with an S, actually right here with an S, and here we call it just scale grid without an S. Maybe this is the S we're missing, so let's just add the S and save it and go back inside our browser. Now if we are to refresh, as you can see, we have this icons right here, and don't worry, we're having this space right here simply because of our images. This once we style them, are going to be having that kind of thing. The images are too large, so they are covering a lot of spaces, but once we finish that styling, everything is just going to come back to normal. Don't worry, let's just style that section. We're actually going to style our project section right now, so let me just copy in this comment with Control C and paste it right here with Control V. So instead of scales, let's just say project section, just like this. And for the project section, what you're also going to start styling is the project grid, like this. Project with an S, because that's how I think we call the class name. But let me just check to avoid making an arrow like before. It is actually called project grid without an S. So what actually we are going to do now is to call it project grid without an S. So let's also remove this S right here, project dash grid, like this, curly bracket. You have to be very, very careful with your classes names, because one misspelling will not allow it to work. It is just going to give you an error. with just one letter that is missing, it's just going to give an error. So you have to be very, very careful with it. And actually what we're going to start styling is the display of this one. For the display, we're just actually going to make it a grid display, and then let's initiate it. The grid, let's just say grid template column. Let's make it in a repeat order, auto fit, and let's just say comma. Let's see min max of, instead of leaving it 200 pixel like our about, sorry, like our scales, let's just make this one 300 pixel, comma, it should be on 1 fr1 frame order, and I think this is how it is. So let's just give it a gap, and for the gap between them, it's just be 1.5 rem, just like this. And I think we're done with this project grid. So let's just come down, and now let's style the project card. Project dash card like this. And for the project card, let's just do this. Let's see the position like this. Let's make it relative, position relative, and let's give it a border radius of 15 pixel, and let's hide the overflow. Let's just say overflow and make it hidden, just like this. The next thing, let's give it a box dash shadow. And for the box shadow, what you're going to do, let me just copy in the color code and the angles just to speed it, Control C, and let's just paste it right here with Control V like this. And let me just come down and just say transition. And for the transition, actually what I'm going to do is that let's target the transform. The transform 0.3 second is comma, and let's just see a box dash shadow, let's also target the box shadow 0.3 second is, just like this. And let's just scroll down a little bit. Let's come down right here and target the project dash card, and let's target the images inside our project card, just like this. Let's start by giving them a width of 100% inside that container, not 100% of our browser, 100% of the container. And for the height, let's just leave it auto to just fit in automatically. Let's make it auto. And for the display, let's make it a block display like this. And let's also give it a transition. For the transition, actually what we're going to do is that let's see, we're targeting the transform at 0.3 second is, just like this, comma. I think let's just leave it like this. Let's just target the transform and leave it like that. So let's just come down right here and give it a hover. And for the hover, actually what it's going to have is this. Let's just say, sorry, class project card img hover like this. And for the hover, let's just say, since we only target the transform, let's just say transformation. For the transformation, it's just be in a scale of 1.1, so that it will not be too big, just like that. And I think this is it. Let's just come down and style, sorry, let's style the class project dash info like this. We created a class project info like this, and let's just say position. In position of this one, let's just make it absolute, just like that. And let's give it a bottom. And for the bottom, we're actually going to give it 0 like this. And let's come down the left of it, let's make it 0. And for the right, let's also make it 0, just like this. And let's give it a background. And for the background, we're actually going to give it is an RGBA black color with a 0.7 transparency level like this. And for the text color, it should be white. It should be white. Let me just type in the white. You can use the color code if you want. It's hashtag FFF, just like that. And let's also give it a padding. And for the padding, actually, let's just make it 1 rem like this. Let's come down and give it a text align. And for the text align, let's just leave it center like this. Let's come down and create a transform. And actually for the transform, we're just going to translate it to y-axis so that it will just be, you're only targeting it in that angle. Translate to y-axis and make it 100%, just like that. And let's also give it a transition like this. And for the transition, actually what we're going to do is this. Let's target this transform like this, and let's just target a transform at 0.3 second, is just like this. And now I think we're also done with the project info, so let's just come down. And actually what we're going to do is that let's just give them a hover, the project card and the project info, let's all give them a hover. So actually what we're going to do is that let's just say project card hover and class project dash info hover. And what we're just going to do is that let's just say we are targeting the transformation of these two, and let's just translate them to y-axis and make it 0, just like that. And I think we are also done with this one, so let me just go down a little bit. And actually what we're going to be styling next is the class project title. So let's just say project dash title, this, curly bracket, and let's just say font size. For the font size, let's just give it a 1.2 rem, just like this. And let's come down and give it a font weight of, let's just say, let's make it bold, just like that. And actually let's just also give it a margin bottom, and for the margin bottom is going to have 0.5 rem, just like that. And I think we're also done with the project title, so let me just scroll down a little bit and let's style the project description class project dash description. I think I spelled it correctly, project description. And let's just say font dash size, like this. And for the font size, let's just say 1 rem, like this. And let's come down and target the color. For the color, let's just make it like this, DDD. It's not pure white, just slightly not white. And I think we're also done with the styling of our project section. So let me just copy in the comment, but first let's just save it to Ctrl S and run it and see what we have inside our browser. If we are to refresh right now, as you can see, I told you it's just those images that are making it having this feature of not being full. As you can see, we have styled our hero section, our navigation bar, our about section. It's having all this cool feature just like this. Our scale section, and our scale section is also done. And the next one is our project section. We are also having a little arrow in our project section, so let's just go and correct it. Probably it's a class name we're missing. Go and check in under our project grid. Where is it? Project grid. This one have an S. Let me check what did I have in my HTML, and it is project grid, like this. Let's just copy in the class name project grid with Ctrl C, and let's replace it with this one that doesn't have an S. You have to also check your one. If you don't have an S, you have to if you have an S, you leave it with an S. If you don't have an S, you have to remove the S, just like me. Let's save it. Now if we are to go back inside our browser and run it, I think it will run perfectly. As you can see, it is okay. This is the sizes we want them to be having. So now we have styled in almost most of it. We have covered almost 70% of our styling. The only thing remaining, I think, is our contact me section and our footer. Those are the two things remaining. So let's just go back inside our code and finish their styling as well. So right now, let me just scroll down, but first let me just copy in my comment right here with Ctrl C, And let me just paste it right here with Ctrl V. Instead of project, let's say contact section, just like this. And for our contact section also, we have created a class called contact-section, just like this. So let's target that class. Let's start by changing its background to an RGBA color with a level of 0.8 black color transparency. And let's give it a padding, and for the padding we're actually going to be giving it's going to be 4 rem, just like this, and 2 rem on the left or right. And let's give it a white color text. Let's just say white, and let's come down and text align. The text align, we're actually going to leave it center like this, and let's come down and give it a border radius. For the border radius, we're actually going to give it a 15 pixel border radius, and let's come down and give it a margin. And actually for the margin, what we're going to do is this. Let's give it a 3 rem on the top and bottom, and for the left and right, let's just justify them with auto, so that will be in the middle. And let's also give it a box shadow. For the box shadow, what you're actually going to do, let me just copy in the color code and its angle to spade in our code. Let me paste it right here with Ctrl V. As you can see, 0 pixel, 10 pixel, 20 pixel, and it's a black color RGBA with a 0.2 transparency level. And I think we are done with the contact section styling. So now we are going to be styling two things: the contact section actually, and the section title. Both the two things. The section title right now, curly bracket, let's target its color like this. And for the color, we're actually going to make it white like this. And let's also give it a text shadow. I think it will make it a little bit cooler. Let's say text shadow like this. And for this shadow, what you're going to do is that let's say 2 pixel top and 2 pixel at the bottom, at the left or right, sorry, and let's just make it an 8 pixel at the left or right, just like this. At the bottom, sorry, at the bottom, RGBA with a 0.5 transparency level. So instead of 6 here, let's just make it 5, just like this. And I think we're done with this two, because they're just going to be having this same styling together. Instead of just giving it different styling them differently, it's better we just do it this way to minimize our code. And actually what we're going to be styling next is this contact dash message. We're just going to be styling this class contact message like this. And let's just say font size. We're actually targeting the font size, and for the font size, let's just make it 1.2 rem, just like that. And let's give it a margin bottom, and for the margin bottom, let's just make it 2 rem. And let's also change the color to an RGBA color. Let me just copy in the color code so that I will just speed it and make it very fast. Ctrl C, and let's just paste it right here with Ctrl V. It's a white color with 0.9 transparency level, and I think that's just what we're going to be given for this one. And now let's just say contact dash info, the name of this class, contact info. We're going to be styling, let's give it a display of flex, and let's give it a flex wrap of wrap. And let's also justify the content in it to center, just like this, and let's give it a gap. And actually for the gap, let's just give it 2 rem, just like this. And I think I'm also done with this contact info class contact dash card, curly bracket. Let's give it a background, and for the background of this one, it's an RGBA background, let me just copy in the color code with Control C, and let me just paste it right here with Control V. As you can see, it's a dark color, but with a 0.2 level of transparency. Let's give it a padding. Padding is just going to be 2 rem, and let's give it a border radius, and the border radius is just going to be 10 pixel, and let's give it a width, and for the width we're just going to give it a 300 pixel width, and let's give it a box shadow. And actually for the box shadow, let me just copy in the color code and its angle so that you guys can just see it. Control C, and let's paste it right here with Control V. And I think let's just come down, text dash align, and for the text align, let's just make it center actually. And for the transition, let's also create a transition for it. And for the transition, let's just target the transform first. Transform 0.3 second is, and let's also target the box shadow. Sorry, box shadow 0.3 second is, just like that. And I think we are also done with the contact card. Now let's just give it a hover. Let's just say sorry, plus contact dash card hover. And for the hover, what we're actually going to do is that we're just going to target the transform. Since they are the only things we give transition, the transform is going to translate to y-axis, and it's going to be -5 pixel, just like this, box shadow. And actually for the box shadow, what you're going to do is this. Let me just copy in the color code and its angle so that we will just spit in our code, because I know this is a very long episode. I'm trying to do as much as I can to reduce the time. We're just going to become zoom for making it. Let's just see contact card. Let's target the icons inside it. So curly bracket, since we're targeting the icons, and I told you the icons are considered as a text, so we're actually going to target its font size. It should be 2.5 rem, just like this. And let's come down and change their color, their color to this yellow color, this one. And let's come down and give them a margin bottom so that we just have a little space between them and the text that is beneath them. Margin bottom 1 rem, like this. And let's also give them a transition. And actually for the transition, what we're going to do is that we're going to target the transform. Let's give it a 0.3 second is, comma. We're also targeting the color. Sorry, the color should be 0.3 second is also. I think these are the two things we're targeting: transform and color. So now let's come down and give them a hover. Since we have give them a transition, sorry, it's a class. Let's say class contact card hover. Under the hover, we're targeting the icons. Let's just say transform, and for the transform, we're just going to go for the scale. The scale is supposed to be 1.2 on hover, just like this. And let's come down and target the color also. Sorry, color. The color should be something like, let's make it white. Hashtag FFF, like this. And I think we're also done with the hover of this icons. So now let's just come down and target the H3 inside our contact card. We're targeting the H3, and let's just say font size. Actually for the font size, let's just make it 1.5 rem, and the color of our text should just be white color. And let's just give it a margin bottom so that it will not just be very close to what is below it. And 0.5 rem. It's not that much since they're in the same container. And actually, let's just tell the paragraph. So let me just copy in everything that we have right here, and let's paste it right here. And instead of h3 right here, let's just make it p. And actually for this one, let's just make it 1 rem. The text is also going to be white, but we're also actually going to be using an RGB color. So let me just copy in the color and replace it with this one. It's white with a 0.8 transparency level. And for this one, we're not going to be using margin bottom. We're just going to use a line height. And for the line height, it's actually going to be 1.5 line height. And I think we're also done with this one. So now let's style the anchor text we have inside. And for the anchor text, actually what we're going to do is this. Let me just copy in everything we have right here with Ctrl+C. Let me come down right here. Let me delete everything inside here. Change this one to an anchor tag. Let me close this curly bracket right here. And inside, actually what we're going to do is that let's start by removing the text decoration. Let's make it none, like this. Let's come down right here and create a color of our text too. Let me just copy in the color code to make it fast. Ctrl+C. Let me just paste it right here with Ctrl+V. This yellow color, like this. And for the font weight, let's just make it bold. Font weight bold, like this. Let's come down and give it a transition. And actually for the transition, what we're going to do is that let's target the color. Sorry, the color 0.3 second is just like this. And let's come down and give it a hover. So let's say Ctrl+C. Let's come down right here and delete everything we have right here. Give it a hover like this, hover, and let's come down. We're just going to target the color since it's only thing with transition. The color should be white on hover. So let's just say color hashtag FFF like this. It should just be white on hover, just like that. And now I think we're also done with all the things inside those cards. So the next thing is the social media icons, because we repeated them inside our contact section. So let's just copy in our comment. Where is the comment? Let me just copy in the comment with Ctrl+C, and let's paste it right here. And instead of contact section, let's just say social media icons, like this. Since we're actually selling the social media icons, let's target the class social icon, social dash icon, like this. And let's just say margin dash top. And for the margin top, let's just say 2 rem, like this, so that it will not just be too close to our boxes, those cards we have created for the contact. And let's make the display to be flex so that I will be able to follow in the flow of the container. Flex and justify content. Let's make it center. And let's come down for the gap. Let's just make it 1.5 rem, the gap between the social icons. And now let's just copy in everything we have right here. We're only going to be styling the anchor text inside them. So let's delete everything here. Right here, let's target the anchor text like this. And remove one space like this, and let's come down inside. Actually, what we're going to do is this. Let's target the font size like this. The font size should be 2 rem, like this. And let's come down, target the color of our text white, like this. And let's come down, transition. The transition, we're actually targeting the transform. The transform is just going to be 0.3 second is, and let's also target the color 0.3 second is, just like this. And now what we're actually going to do is that social media icons A. Let's target its hover. First, let's remove everything that is here. Now let's just say hover like this, and let's come down inside and say transform. For the transformation, let's just change in the scale. Actually, the scale is initially 1, so we're just going to make it 1.2. Sorry, not 0.2, 1.2, like this. And let's come down right here and change the color. On hover, the color is going to be this yellow color, like this. And we're also done with the contact section. So now if we were to save it and go back inside our browser and refresh, let's just give it a moment to refresh. As you can see, we have our contact section working just fine, but oops, we have an error. This our social media are in this approach. So right now I can guarantee you we also missed a class name. So let's just go in and check what did we miss. Social media icons. This is social icons. Let's check in our HTML. What did we give the class name? Actually, it is social icons with an S. So we're actually missing the S. Let's just copy it and see. Today we are missing a lot of classes names. You have to just go back and check in. If you give your own social icon without an S, then you don't have to change it. But if you give it just like mine, you have to change it. Let me just replace it, social icons. Now if we were to save it and go back inside our browser, if we were to refresh, as you can see, they are perfectly okay. They are just in the way they are supposed to be. We want them to be. And now the only thing remaining in our styling is our footer. So now let's just go in and style the footer, and we are almost done. So now let's just copy in our comment right here with Ctrl C, and let's come down right here, Ctrl V, and instead of social media icons, let's just see footer like this, and let's come down. And for the footer, since we do not add that much, and if you remember, we have a class called footer like this. So we're just going to style that class. Let's just give it a background. And for the background, we're actually going to give it this color, hashtag 33. It's a dark color. You are already familiar with it. And for the color of our text, we're just going to make it white color, like this, white. You can just type in the color code. I'm just doing it this way so that for you to know that you can just use this one also. And let's also give it a padding. And for the padding, actually, we're just going to make it 1.5 rem at the top and bottom, and for the left and right, let's just leave it 0, just like that. And let's also give it a text align, and for the text align, actually, let's make it center. And let's also give it a margin top, so it not just be margin with our contact section. Let's give it a margin top 2 rem. I think 2 rem is okay, so that the gap it will not be that much. Let's just come down right here and target the footer dash text class we have created. And for the footer text, let's just say target the font size, and for the font size, let's just give it 1 rem, just like this. And let's just say color, and for the color, let's just use this color code AAA, like this. It's just this one, not pure white. It's a little bit, it's much more darker than the F2 you normally used to give, but you will see what it is. Just don't worry, you will see it after we run the code. And maybe, I don't think this is necessary, but since this color is not white, let's just give it a hover in such a way that when someone is hovering on our footer, it will just become a little bit more clear with a white color. So let's just give it a hover like that. Even though it's just a text, let's give it a hover. So let's just say footer text, we are just going to give it a hover like this. Sorry, this is not the bracket we want to use, curly bracket, not normal bracket. And let's just say color, we're just getting it color, let's make it white, just like this, and let's save it. Now if we are to go back inside our browser and refresh, as you can see, we have our hover, and the hover, we have our footer, sorry, and the hover effect is working just fine on it. Copyright 2025 Ismaeel Abubakar, all right, resolved. And now as you can see, we have almost everything we need in our CSS. The only thing remaining is this animation feature. Don't worry, I told you that we're going to be creating the animation feature for this text, just like it is animating right here. If we were to refresh it right here, as you can see, we are having this animation. And if you remember, we have already created the animation feature. The only thing remaining is to add the keyframe for our animation, and that is just what we're going to do right now. So let's just come down right here, and let's just start it by copying in our comment with Control C. Let's come down right here, paste it. Instead of footer, let's make it animation, animation, like this. And let's come down right here. And for the animation, actually, if you want to create an animation in CSS, you will start it in by calling in this keyframe. You query the keyframe like this at keyframe. At keyframes. We're actually going to make it to fade in, since if you remember, we have targeted the fade in of our keyframe at the top. And you have to make sure the I is in capital letter because it's a keyword. Fade in, the I in capital letter, curly bracket. And actually what we're going to do is that at 0%, let's just see, it should be 0% like this. And when it's at 0%, the position of 0%, the opacity should actually be 0, so that it will just be invisible. By the time the browser is loading, it's at 0%. The opacity is going to be 0, so that we're just going to be seeing it. And then we want it to transform. And that transformation is going to be happening on y-axis. So it will translate to y-axis in this approach from top to bottom. That's the y-axis. And let's make it 20 pixel, just like that. And then let's come downwards. And what we're actually going to do is that let's just copy in this one and let's just paste it right here like this. Let me just remove this white space, and instead of 0% right here, let's make it 100%. At 100%, it is actually going to be, the opacity is going to be 1, and the translation to y-axis is going to be 0, just like this, so that when it is loading, the keyframe is at 0%, the opacity is just going to be 0, and it is in the transformation is going to translate it to y to 20% downward. The shift it's going to have is from 20% to its initial position, just like that. And now with this, if we are to save it with Control S and go back inside our browser, if we are to refresh, as you can see, we have this animation feature. If we are to refresh again, you have this animation feature. You can refresh it as many times as you want to see the feature, but this is just how you created animation in CSS. And I think we're almost done with the styling, but since we're actually going to be hosting this website on GitHub pages when we're done, a lot of you would like to access it with your mobile phones. Let's just give it a little bit of responsiveness so that it will be able to be accessible to with mobile phones. You can add as many responsible features as you want. I'm just going to give you this little ones. If you want to learn more about responsive design, you should just go back and watch in our episode on responsive design. But for now, we're just going to add a little bit responsive design to it. So let's just copy in our comment with Control C, and let's come down right here and paste it with Control V, and let's just say responsive design, just like this. And for this responsive design, what we're actually going to do is that let's just set it by calling in the media query at media. And what we are just actually going to do is this. Let's just say parentheses, and let's target the max width of a mobile phone, since that's just actually what I'm just going to change the styling for. Max width, I just hope this is how you spell width. Max width of, let's just say 768, just like that, 768 pixel. And when it is at that scale, the styling is going to be, let's just say, get the about container. Let's just say about dash container. About container class. The about container class is just going to have a flex direction of column, so that it will not just be in this approach. Instead of them to be aligning in this approach, where is the about section. Instead of them to be aligning in this approach, this one side by side, they're just going to be, this one it will be at the top and this one it will be at the bottom of it when we're viewing it in a very small screen. So that's just what we're just going to do. It should be in column, in text dash align. For the text align, let's also make it center like this. And I think this is it. Let's also target the about photo, about dash photo, just like this. And for the class about photo, what we're actually going to do is that let's give it a margin. Since they are going to be in that approach, we need some space between them. So let's just give it a margin bottom like this, a margin bottom of 1.5 rem like this. And I think we're also done with this one. So let's just come down and sell the grid of our scales, since it's also have those images in that approach. So let's just say scales dash grid, just like this. That's the name of the class. And let's also target our project grid as well, since they all have those boxes and we don't want them to be in this approach when we're viewing them in a mobile phone. We don't want them to be like this when we're viewing them in a mobile phone. They will look much better when they're appearing at the top of each other, just like this, just like that. So that's just what they're going to do, scale grid and project grid also. Let's just say project grid, this one, project grid, and curly bracket. Let's just say the grid template column should be in one frame, just like that, not any in a repeat order. Let's just say grid template column, it should just be one fr, just like that. And I think this is the end of our styling as well. If you reach up until this stage, congratulations, you have learned how to create a complete portfolio from scratch using just HTML and CSS. Now if we are to save it to Ctrl S and go back inside our browser, if we are to refresh, as you can see, we have our cool feature. Hi, I'm Ismaeel Abubakar. You have everything working just fine, just like this. As you can see, we have our navigation bar, about me section, your profile picture, your skills card and everything, your project, just like this. Oops, I think we're missing something. A text is supposed to appear when we hover on our project and the text is not appearing. So let's go back inside our code and check what is missing, because as you can see right here on this one, if we hover around it, this project one text appear like this, and for this one, the one that we have right here, it is not appearing. So let's just go in and check what did we miss under our project section. So let's check in and see where did we make a typo. It is under project description for sure, but where in the project description? So let's check it and see. And we have our project info right here and position. I think let's check under the hover, project cat hover. Oops, we're having two hovers here, so it's supposed to be only one hover. This row is not applicable. It's just supposed to be project cat hover and then project info. If you have two hover just like me, you should delete one of the hovers. So now let's save it and go back inside our browser. Now if we were to refresh, it is working just fine. So this is how we fixed that error, and I think that is it. We have almost everything we need inside our portfolio, and this portfolio is a very standard portfolio, simple and easy to make, and it is very direct. As you can see, we have this animation feature, and actually what we're going to do is this. On our next episode, we are going to be hosting this portfolio we did on GitHub, so that you can have a public link that you can share with people. Every time someone click on that link, it is going to take that person to your portfolio. That is actually what you're going to do, and you're just going to discuss more about what GitHub is, what is version control actually, and the main uses of GitHub, and why do you need a GitHub as a developer. Actually, I know this is a very long episode. That is even the initial reason why we divided it into two parts, the HTML part and the CSS part. So this episode has a lot of things to digest. If you finish developing your own, I would recommend you go back and watch it again so that you have a better understanding of what we actually did right here. And this will be the end of today's lesson. I hope you guys enjoy. See you in the next one.